going to do, we've had some introduction. Basically, Ingrid and I have been working together primarily on wildfire issues and the environmental issues with wildfire and how do you communicate risk. Now we're looking at things like the link between wildfire and climate change and how to use social media in different phases of a disaster, such as during a disaster, how do you use Twitter to move resources around, etc. Most of this work has been funded by the U.S. Forest Service, and we work here in the U.S., Australia, trying to go on vacations and fires, those type of things. Right? What we're going to do today is try to link the concept of sustainability to business, to the economy and economic considerations. Looking at your class so far, looks like you've done a lot of very interesting stuff already, looking at different definitions of sustainability. Economists wrote a paper in the early 1990s, and already at that time there was over 100 different definitions of sustainability that you could document through the World Bank, United Nations, all of these agencies. And so what we want to do is to take that information, that foundation that you have from an ecological perspective, an engineering perspective, a social perspective, bring in an economics and consumer business perspective. We have a couple of websites here. This first one, if I can get this, see if technology works for me. I just tested it. So, yep. Okay. These websites are sites that are used by business organizations to provide information to their counterparts, like the California Green Business Alliance. It's a group of businesses that have come together in support of AB 32. You've discussed AB 32. The climate change, it's called the Global Warming Solutions Act in California, and it was passed in 2005. And so business has historically been anti-regulation, anything that would, they perceive, increase their costs, reduce their competitiveness. This is a group of business that says this regulation is good for us, it's benefited us, etc. World Business Council on Sustainable Development, they were organized for the Rio Conference in the world in 1972 in Stockholm, Sweden. The world got together through the United Nations and had the first sort of global meeting to say we need to be worried about the environment. Then in 1992 they got together in Rio and said, how are we doing? And found out they weren't doing so well. But the World Business Council was organized, a group of businesses from major businesses, Chevron, Exxon, down to some very small businesses. So these are the websites. This website is wbcsd.org. You can just Google them. Then I'm going to talk for a little bit on economics and governance and sustainability. And then Ingrid will talk about consumers. Then we'll play a little game. Last week, the state of California auctioned off permits for carbon in a cap and trade system. So that was their second auction under the ED 32. So we'll play a little game to show how the permit market works to regulate the emissions of carbon. Cap and trade has received a lot of attention in politics recently about how's the government becoming involved in all of that. So we'll see how the market solution is being used. And then you've already done a carbon footprint exercise, but this is a different one than what you did. And I'm going to try and get the links to work here.
There you go.
I didn't like my pen in the tablet. All right. So this is a carbon footprint exercise. Ingrid will go through it.
Do you guys get a chance to look at that and go through it?
How
So
many
you see, it's a
verbs?
little different from the one that you guys did. They did the EPA one?
They have not done it yet, but we will do it, you know.
Okay. So this is there's a lot of them, so this is a little different.
All right, so the USA. We like this one for classes because it's has your little community and shows you how to get started.
Is that better? Yes. Is that better in terms of seeing it? Okay.
Okay, let's see here. We'll randomly generate instead of... Okay, so you're walking through your neighborhood. Your basic information. So you want to explain from a consumer?
Sure. Did you guys end up doing okay, so you pick things, like how often do you eat meat? And so you could go through and look at all this. And you guys understand the idea of how high or how low you eat in terms of the food groups affects sustainability and affects the environment. So you go through and you pick where you are in terms of pork, in terms of beef, lamb, poultry, eggs. So, and this is you're supposed to put in what you actually do, okay? So if you go to that. And then here, looking at your other food groups, okay, in terms of your diet based on fresh food packaging, or is it local foods versus more packaged stuff? Do you buy and eat locally grown versus stuff that's imported, like from Mexico, from Latin America, from Europe, from Australia, or are you buying stuff that is in season and locally grown here in this area? And then, how much do you spend in terms of things like, we're looking at clothing here, household, so tangibles, or not tangibles, what's the term?
Durable goods.
Durables and non-durables, that kind of thing. So looking at how do you spend your money, and all of this in the end tells you what your global carbon footprint is.
How frequently you replace appliances, etc. How often do you buy new books? You're all using e-books, right?
Plastic, how much recycling do you do? So do you guys ever think about when you put your trash out, how much trash are you putting outside to be collected? How much waste are you putting outside of your door, whether it's, outside of your apartment or outside of your house or whatever? Those trash bins where you can recycle them. How much are you putting out there? Are you seeing a change in, how much what the quantity is in each of those containers?
You see here, this is also to be used, houses without running water, with running water, so they have implications.